Why hello, so today we're going to do a mushroom lab. So if you want to do this lab along with us at home, there's a couple things. One, I'm just going to show you that we're just using normal regular knives for this. I have a couple pairs of tweezers or forceps as we like to call them. And then I have a cutting board, which is the red item that you see on the table already, and a mushroom. So we want to place our mushroom. On this case, we're going to do it on a cutting board instead of a piece of paper, and we need to kind of look at what we have for a diagram here. And so this is obviously our anterior and posterior views would be the same. This is our superior view and our inferior view or bottom view of this. And you can see that this is just a normal mushroom. Most of the time when you go to the store, you'll see one like this. And so what we have is our nice little cap and our stem. Right now our gills are not visible because we are using button mushrooms, and so the gills are not visible on these right away. And so the first thing that we need to do is grasp with one hand firmly with the stem, and we need to pull them apart. So once we have our what we consider our stem separated from our cap here, we can actually see our gills. So now you should see a few things. One, and I will increase this as we go, using a pair of tweezers, you can actually peel this just like you would peel string cheese. And so we can see these individual little layers here, known as hyphae. See that individual little string coming off? That is the hyphae for this. And if we look at our cap, we can actually see those little strands as we pull it apart. They're made of hundreds of thousands of these little strands. Those are known as our hyphae. And so I'm going to put that on a piece of paper real quick so we can see that contrast of that hyphae right there. As you can see, it's super tiny. Oops. And it gets a little pixelated as I go in too far. It's very thread-like though. There's a lot of them, there's just one single strand. As we can see, the size difference. So they're really, really tiny. We are not going to do that, but if you are at home doing this, you can keep picking away and you can just see these individual little strands starting to come off of here. And there's just like on the side here, you can see just a ton of them like sticking up right here, these little hair-like structures. Those are the hyphae. And so that is what is making up your stem, and most of these hair-like filaments are what's this webbing together. That's what we're looking at. And so we will not look at that under a microscope. I'll have an image of that so you can see that. And as we remove part of the cap, and you can see it's still very, very stringy. So as you remove part of that cap pieces, you can see these individual little strings coming off of there. Those are the hyphae. And underneath right here, that's what we're looking at. Those little beauties right there, those are the gills. And so in order to see a gill, we are going to now look at our cap. We can see it's lined with thousands of these gills on the inside. I still have a little piece of stem here, so if you have some stem that's still located on, you just want to use your tweezers to remove that. And then you should be able to see the stem. If you want to remove this portion of it, of the cap, so that you could easily see those gills, feel free to do so. I am going to makes it a little bit easier for me. So I'm going to remove those. Again, it just peels off kind of like layers of string cheese would be the easiest way to remember these. And it's just that hyphae. And so it's just those filaments that we've already talked about. And so we want to look at just a piece of the cap up close. So what I'm going to do is I'm just taking a regular paring knife and I'm cutting through. What this now allows is access to these gills. The gills are where the spores are going to be located at. And so what I can do here now is I can take my tweezers and I can separate out an individual gill. Now in the classroom we would look at these under a microscope, but since you do not have microscopes at home, I will send you imagery of that, but I want you to see kind of close up what that gill piece would look like here. And so it's very striated, and you can see that it is a different color. Remember the spores that come out of this are like a blackish color? And so those would be our gills. Now if we would put this under a wet mount, you could actually observe the wonderful, beautiful spores. I will put imagery of that on there. If you want, you can look at these layerings. I think this is quite neat. You can see the separation between the cap and the gills. And so this whole little piece here is a gill. And so you can pull that off and you can continue to look at that. You can see also the striation within the cap. Look at the density of it compared to that of our stem. And so they're really kind of very, very different, though they're made out of similar materials. And so that is the mushroom lab. We are not doing the wet mounts on this video. I will have attached pictures of the wet mounts for you. Enjoy.